All right, well, welcome. I am so excited to have the team from Be Good with us today. And we are excited to have another Accessories Council educational session. Lots of great things coming up with the council. If you get our newsletter, you'll see that we have a number of virtual events on the horizon, and our ACE Awards are coming up. We just announced our honorees, and super excited to have names like Wes Gordon and Laquan Smith, Christian Siriano, Curate Retail Group, Shopbop, Karen Schoenbart from the NPD Group, Crocs, and Alan Edmonds. Plus, we have a vote going on, and if you're watching this today, you can still vote until midnight tomorrow to help pick another winner. So just go on our website and you'll see the link to vote. But let me get started by introducing our amazing panel. Rabia Farhang, founder of Be Good. She is an agent of change, a fashion industry leader with an entrepreneurial spirit. She's worked with companies from big ones to startup companies to drive business and transformation, and is a team leader in product and design and supply chain and financial management, all things that we need. And we'll be hearing more from her. Johanna Masket, co-founder, strategic thinker, consulting in retail, raised executive who is passionate about finding new businesses and approaches. She has a global knowledge and leadership expertise with large companies and small companies, which is what the Accessories Council is made of. And then Eliza Erskine, a researcher and lifelong learner, education and previous experience in financial services, ESG research, relationship management to help support clients effectively. She loves helping companies navigate B Corp certification and assessments, all things that we need to learn more about. And welcome, ladies, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'll kick things off. As Karen said, I'm Rabia Farhang, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Karen, and the Accessory Council for inviting us and for allowing us to sort of talk about what we're passionate about, sustainability, and maybe address any questions that the audience might have. But we wanted to just sort of kick it off, talk a little bit about what we do and who we are. So Be Good Collective is a sustainability agency, and we work with small and mid-sized businesses predominantly. And the reason we focus on that sector is really that as we learn more and more about sustainability overall globally, and as companies focus on it, what we're really seeing is that that's where a lot of companies may lack the bandwidth or the team or the ability to really sort of get a deep understanding of all the different components of sustainability, how to approach it, how to think about it in terms of their own business, and then how to implement it and roll it out. So we, as a collective, the beauty of what we offer is really a range of diverse expertise in all the different areas of sustainability. So we have from strategy development to ESG reporting to assessment to B Corp certification, we have a range of different areas that we can address. And we start really by talking to people and just getting an understanding of where they are today and where they think they may want to go, or help them navigate to get there. So we're excited to be able to offer that for the sort of family of Accessory Council too. As you listen and learn more and more about sustainability, please feel free to reach out to us. You could do it through our website, reach out to us at info@bgoodcollective.com, or you could reach out to one of us individually. We can put it in the chat to each one of our names at Be Good Collective. So why, again, what we talked about a little bit of why people are going into this, and Johanna is going to cover some more of what we're hearing from our clients and from the different companies. But what we want to do is just, what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of a broad overview of what our services are. We do, one of the key areas that we focus on is sustainability workshops. There are a number of different workshops, and we customize each one of those to the client. So depending on the sector that they're in, depending on their capabilities, depending on what they may be interested in going after, whether it's certain things within the environment, whether it's social, whether it's where they want to start and where they ultimately go. That's part of what we help them do. And one of the key workshops that we offer is an educational workshop. So it really gives the client a very deep dive into all things sustainability, and we frame it in terms of what it means to them. Again, customized to who they are, what they do, and what it looks like for them, and how they should be thinking about it to even develop some sort of an idea of where they want to go. We also do strategy development, and that could range depending on the client again, and depending on the areas that they want to focus on, or if they even know where they want to focus on. But that could be multiple different levels of workshops and different meetings that we have. So again, customized to their needs and their specific focus. We also do certifications and assessments and reporting. Eliza will talk a little bit more about what some of that assessment and what certification might entail for companies, especially small and mid-sized companies, and how she helps facilitate that within organizations. We do sustainability training for organizations, predominantly once they roll out their strategies, and when we help them develop the strategies, trying to get the entire team on board with what that might look like and what their role might be within it. So that's part of the training that we do for teams. And then lastly, certainly but not least, we also help with the implementation and sort of serve as the interim team to help make sure that the strategies that are developed, the ideas that are put together actually do get implemented. Decisions are made, they're made timely, and timelines are kept. So that's the range of services we offer. Our areas of focus range from supply chain and carbon management to circular design and material sourcing, if that's where a company wants to start. So we could advise you and guide you on that. I mentioned before, we do B Corp certification. We also help with other types of certifications depending on your business. We help companies with the green office aspect, and green office management, maybe with rolling out and launching a green office and going after that. And then ESG framework and reporting, helping guide companies on what that is and what that looks like. Johanna will go into a little bit more detail of what is ESG and what that entails and what it means. But before I hand it off to Johanna, what I'd like to sort of end with is just a question that keeps coming up, and a lot of people ask: what is sustainability? You know, it means different things to different people. Some people may have a preconceived notion already of what it means to them. Some people are a little bit lost because there's so many things that are spoken, that are talked about within sustainability. We just simply define modern sustainability as the integration of the environment, people, and the economy. You really can't have one without the other. And as we look at sustainability for companies, we really look at all of those. It may not be where you as a company may want to start and launch your initiatives, but it's really critical to give you an understanding of how that connects, whether it's environmental and material sort of sustainability and change that you want to make, or you want to look at your supply chain. They're all connected to each other. And that's part of what we will help you with a further understanding, and develop strategies that sort of tie all those together and takes all of those into consideration. So with that, that's an overview of who we are and what we do. And I'll hand it off to Johanna Masket, who will talk a little bit more in detail about our clients and what we see with companies. Johanna, off to you.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much as well. And I'm very happy to be here as well. And obviously talking as part of the Accessory Council's Lunch and Learn. I'm going to talk a little bit about, why clients, what we're hearing from our clients, and why sustainability is really becoming more and more important. When you sort of think about what we're hearing out in the market, all the talk about climate change and greenhouse gases, consumers are expecting a lot more from companies and brands that they shop with, as well as a lot of the talk around potential future regulation. Our clients are coming to us because they really are asking us to help navigate through all this stuff. They really want to understand, what is it that I really need to know? Again, what Rabia was talking about, what does sustainability mean for my company? And where do I prioritize? And how do I start? And as Rabia was talking about all our different services, overall, what we do with our clients is we really try to help them future-proof their business, as well as help them set up for the future, develop that framework so that they can be successful moving forward. And one of the services that Rabia also touched upon, which is probably our most popular service, is our sustainability workshop. And really what our sustainability workshop does, again, is really start by, that education of understanding, what is this? But we also try to bring sort of the practical aspect to this of, how do you help a client understand what should you put in place and how do you make that happen? And we also help our clients get to sort of that strategy and implementation very quickly. Now, one of the other things that we also, have started to look at, and what we've become aware of is that sustainability has become more important now, and more companies are moving very quickly down this path, not just to sort of protect themselves against risk of regulation or the potential impact of their brand reputation, but we've also seen that more and more of the money is going in that direction. Investors are starting to invest more in sustainable practices or companies that are moving down this path. So it's becoming, more and more important, or more and more critical for companies to start implementing these practices. And in addition, what we've also found is because a lot of these companies, a lot of the bigger companies are moving, to sustainability, it's also becoming important to develop these practices to be competitive. So how do if I haven't started to move down this path of developing sustainability, I might be left behind, and it may impact my business. Now, there's another area that we also focus in, which is, how do you communicate your impact? How do you report on what you're doing and how are you moving forward? And we have a colleague that sort of focuses on what we call ESG reporting and framework. And that really in sort of straightforward terms is, how do you sort of, take the different initiatives that you're doing and sort of show that you're actually moving forward? That you're increasing the, recycled materials in your product, or, starting to move down that path. Well, there's a certain structure that you follow, and it's within what we would call our ESG reporting. And ESG reporting really sort of follows those three different, pillars, which is all around, your environmental, what are you doing from an environmental standpoint? How are you, reducing the impact on the environment? And again, that can be anything from, using more sustainable materials, or, adding recycling, recycled products to your business. And then there's the other pillar, which is around social. And that's really looking at, obviously, things that impact your workers. It could be also the safety of your work environment. And then governance is really around looking at what sort of guidelines do you have put in place? What sort of structure do you have in place within your company to ensure that the sustainability practice is moving forward? So not only do you have ESG reporting, but you also have the reporting that you want to do externally to your outside community, to your consumers, to your clients, which also shows that you are moving forward in sustainability, and starting to implement certain practices. But another key component of really making this happen is you also have to sort of assess where you are in order to be able to understand how far you've come. And I'm going to, Eliza is going to talk a lot about that assessment and also the certification that can sort of help move you forward. So Eliza, why don't you jump in here?
Great, thank you. And thanks to the Accessory Council for having us. This is our favorite thing to talk about. So we're excited to be able to talk about it with all of you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about certifications, specifically B Corps. That's kind of my sweet spot within the collective. So B Corp is a certification that is given by a group called B Lab. And it's a certification that says, like Rabia was describing, you are equally incorporating people, planet, and profit into your business case. It's extremely robust. You have to do a huge assessment. And the biggest thing I think that differentiates B Corp from other certifications is that you have to legally change your business to become a benefit corporation. So when we talk about that governance area, the benefit corporation protects the business. If it gets bought by someone else or transferred, it has to keep that people, planet, profit at the center of it. So B Corp has been around for at least 10 years, but really in the past, I think 18 months to 2 years, it's really become an exciting option for a lot of companies, especially as sustainability becomes buzzy. You know, you look at different companies and you can look at their website and they'll be talking about sustainability and green and eco. And if you are a company that's looking to really set yourself apart and really make that part of your company, having a certification like B Corp is a way that really proves sustainability instead of just putting it on your website or talking about it. So B Corp looks at your business in 5 main areas. You have to complete an assessment that looks at customers, it looks at workers, environment, governance, and community. And the assessment that you fill out is actually free to use. So I really recommend, especially for smaller, early stage, mid-sized companies that are curious about sustainability or kind of wonder, what does this mean for my company, to look at the assessment and use it, because it will show you what those sort of social indicators are. It will show you what environmental things you should be thinking about and doing. So when we talk to clients that are interested in B Corp or clients that have undertaken it, they're really using it at this point, we can see, for kind of 2 reasons. They definitely want to stand out from their competitors, but they're also looking at it as kind of a hiring tool. As younger generations come into the workforce, they really want to work at companies that are taking action on these different kind of ESG and sustainability indicators. And they have a choice of where to work. And if you as a B Corp can say, we're B Corp certified, these are the things that are part of our business model, that's going to be really attractive to hiring. So if you're thinking about certification, I think the first thing that I would do, if you go on B Lab's website, and I can share this in the chat, you can sort by apparel and accessories companies. So you can see what other kind of companies in your cohort are getting certified. You know, there's companies like Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's, a ton of companies that everybody would recognize are getting certified. So if you are curious about certification, look at their website. And also, you know, like Rabia said, you can reach out to us and we can talk about how it might be good for your business, what the benefits are, and how to go along with it.
Eliza, quick note. Even if somebody decides not to go down the path of becoming B Corp certified today, right? The assessment process, how does that, can you talk a little bit about how that helps them thinking about their sustainability and the components that sort of it connects to as they think about accountability and how to communicate that and how to report on that?
Yeah, so the assessment is free to use for any company. If you go to B Corp's website, you can start the assessment and it will go through those different areas that I talked about. So for a company that isn't interested in getting certified, but is interested in thinking about sustainability, usually there's something that's drawing that to them. It could be a supply chain. it could be environmental things. So I recommend that companies just start with one of those 5 areas. When you go through the assessment, it will ask you different questions. It will ask about energy use. It will ask about renewable energy use. And the way that it's set up, and again, you can kind of go through and click and test and see, you'll get more points based on the robustness of your reporting and your monitoring. So there's an option for energy, for example, to say we don't track energy, and that's not worth any points. Or there's an option where you say we track it, but we haven't set any goals. And then there's another option, we've set goals and we've reduced energy, or how much renewable energy you're using. So when you're going through the assessment, if you want to become certified, you have to hit at least 80 points. And then you have a meeting with B Lab and they go through it. But if you're a company that is just starting out, I recommend that companies try and get to 50 points, you know, going through the assessment and looking at different areas. The other thing that kind of separates B Corp from other things is that you have to prove everything. So you have to show documentation of the fact that you're tracking energy. You have to show documentation of those different social policies or things that are in place, and you do have to recertify every 3 years. So even if you're not in a place to get certified today, but you know, you've set a goal to be certified in 2023, it's definitely worth looking at the assessment and trying to figure out what part is interesting to you. I recommend that companies start with that.
And is it something, Eliza, is it something that, you know, based on doing the certification, could that help you in terms of your communication? Could you communicate some of the things that you're doing based on going through that certification?
Yes.
Even if you don't get B Corp certified.
Yeah, I think it's, I like kind of using the 5 areas. You know, you can use that as the basis of communication and say, you know, for workers, these are our different community practices. These are our DE&I goals. These are the benefits that we're offering. And then for environment, sharing those types of things. That would be, I think it's a way to both figure out what's important and then saying, this is our focus. And then you can use that to share that focus with different stakeholders, so customers, suppliers.
And I think that obviously B Corp is a great certification because it goes across all sorts of industries. Every type of company can become B Corp certified. I think specifically for the, you know, the apparel and accessories industry, you could look at things like the Higgs Index. That is more within the fashion space. That is the same thing. You can go through the questions to sort of see how you stack up even before going through the certification. So, you know, all these things I think could help you in terms of your, you know, what do you communicate, and also preparing yourself to really verify that you are doing what you're saying you're doing, because again, there are a lot of those cases of greenwashing that are coming out. And how do you make sure that you have the documentation and the verification that you're not just saying things for saying things, but you actually moving in the right direction and are substantiating it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say climate neutral is the other kind of certification tool that we're excited about with the collective. That is, if you just Google climate neutral, it will come up. And that is a tool that helps you understand your carbon footprint, measure your carbon footprint, and then connects you with different reduction and offset options so that you can become that climate neutral.
And I think the great thing about that is well, also they have a certification where you could have the climate neutral certification, but it also pushes you to develop goals and strategies against that as well. So that is, you know, really exciting in terms of a tool. And there are a lot of different tools out there to be able to sort of help you, you know, look at your specific industry and also, you know, help you to be able to assess the impacts. And And obviously, we as BGood Collective are happy to sort of work with, anybody that has questions on this, and feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to sort of provide more detailed information on resources and tools to sort of help move forward in this way.
Yeah, and I think to add to what you're saying, Johanna, I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of different components, like we said, that you could be looking at in sustainability, and that's where it could be overwhelming, right? If you start to dig into some of these assessments and the questions, it may be overwhelming to figure out, what do I do with this? How do I pull this together? So for us, just to sort of frame all this up for everybody, part of the initial part of where we come in and we try to help navigate through is how to think about it first, how to think about how you want to integrate it into your business strategy, because really sustainability shouldn't be a sort of separate initiative that you do on the side with a bunch of assessments and maybe some certifications. It really is about thinking about how do all of those different pillars apply to your total business strategy. And then we can help you, there are a lot of different tools and a lot of different resources that we could navigate you to and towards. But really the idea is going to be, where do you want to start? How do we develop an area of focus for you and sort of roadmap that out for you? And then use some of these tools to help you get there, to help you understand and pull some of that data. It's part of what we're in the process of right now with one of our clients. Is they've developed sort of the idea and the framework of what they want to do. We've helped them identify that. Now we're at the point where we're giving them some specifics on what to pull to be able to start to not only communicate that, but for themselves, set up a baseline to see where they stand today. And then start to set goals, short-term and long-term, to think about, okay, where do I want to go? And then how do I track myself? So that, because there is no magic number, right? There may be a goal and a number that eventually you want to hit. But at the end of the day, wherever you are is a good place to start, because what you want to do is you want to continue to improve. You want to be able to, create a positive impact and improve that impact and start to chip away at it, whether it's increasing the use of sustainable materials in your assortment, or whether it's starting to reduce your carbon footprint. Where do you start, and how do you start to chip away at it? It could be 10%, a quarter, a year, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of having visibility to be able to continue to improve on that year after year.
And I think one of the things that I would add to that, Rabia, as just taking our recent client in mind, is also really understanding how do you connect your sustainability vision to your overall corporate values. It shouldn't be disconnected. You shouldn't be going down the path and saying, I'm going to reduce water if it has nothing to do with who I am as a company. And that also makes that vision a bit more authentic. And then the other thing that, we've been working with our recent client is also, how do you tell that story about how you got here? It's not just that, all of a sudden I wanted to do this. It's more like, why do you want to do this? What was the story that got you here? And that makes it a bit more authentic in terms of understanding for the consumer or for the outside parties of, why are you moving forward in this direction? And I do think that if you connect your vision with your values, then it's more likely that you're going to execute properly on it and you're going to be successful moving forward. You also have to look at your capabilities. What do I actually have the capabilities to actually implement? And what's happening around me? What are my competitors doing? What are my clients demanding of me? In order to sort of determine, where my focus is, and what are my goals to sort of move forward. So I think all these things are definitely connected. And then, of course, the assessment and the certification and the reporting are definitely part of it, because it creates credibility. And it also verifies that what I'm doing is I'm truly doing what I'm saying. So.
That's right. So we can move on to some questions. Karen, I don't know if you've got
Well, we
anything?
do.
Or we could ask the audience, I guess, to put it in the
Yeah,
chat first,
I
right?
mean,
That's the first step.
I see that we have a few companies on, and I know they're smaller companies. So, maybe, first of all, if you have any questions, just pop them right into the chat. But maybe a good question would be like, if you're a really small company and you don't have resources, what are some steps that you can do, or where do you start?
So, one of the things that we say to people is, it's okay to start with one area. And part of what Johanna was talking about, one of the things that we do is we sit down with the leadership of the company and really try to understand sort of what's important to you. Again, it goes back to your values, and that may seem a little bit, sort of very sort of out there to think about sustainability as what your values are, but it really is important because that will really help prioritize and identify where you may have the opportunity to start out with. So don't be overwhelmed. Think about what's important to you. Think about what your business, your mission, and your vision has been, and really think about the area that makes the most sense. That's probably the most approachable for you to start out with. You don't want to make it so overwhelming. You don't want to start right away by thinking, oh my God, how do I just do all of these assessments? That's not where you want to start. You want to start with what matters in terms of your business model. Is it product? Is that your sweet spot? Is that really your strength? And what about product are you passionate about? Where do you want to go? What's the impact that you think you want to make in terms of your business and your company? So that's part of what we could navigate. It's a good place to start. And then I think once you start to set that up, we'll help. What we do is help understand how to prioritize that and how to develop some roadmaps in terms of steps on how to get there. And that really is an easy place to start. And it could be, it could be materials, it could be on environment and carbon. It doesn't really matter, but we can sort of navigate you through what the right steps are, how to collect some of this information, and how to start to find the resources to start to change your supply chain or whatever that may be. Johanna, what else would you like to add to that?
No, I think absolutely that's the right direction. It's very much sort of starting small and moving out in that direction. I think that's I would definitely concur with what you're saying. I see that there are things that are popping up.
There is a question. I want to tag on to your answer, because one of the things that we're asked often is, you may start your journey of sustainability in a certain part of your business, but maybe you've got a long way to go in another. You haven't attacked your packaging. Do you help the companies with messaging? So how do you talk about what you are doing without opening the can of worms about what you may not be able to affect yet, if that makes sense?
Yeah. No, I think it's a key part of it. We've had incidents where people have asked us, well, can you help us figure out how to message this, without even having delved right into the details of setting this up? And we really advise people, don't do that. Don't just say that you're working on something without really laying the foundation and starting to gather the information and starting to take some steps. So communication is a key component of this, and we're very mindful of that, because at the end of the day, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to tell your own company internally, but externally, you want to be able to tell people how you're doing it, what you're doing it, and what you're doing rather, and what the results are. So as we map out the steps that people have to take, it's part of what we sort of bucket it in terms of, okay, what are the short term? What are some immediate things that you can do to sort of get you towards the path that you want to go? And we sort of document that, and we tell them to start to gather data and collect some data in order to be able to start to create some sort of visibility to what that is. And then they start to build the steps of what they should do on that. And then we start to say, okay, for example, if you're going to add sustainable if you're going to increase your sustainable material mix in your company, whatever that company is, right? Then how do you track where you are today? Do you have any sustainable material mix in your assortment? Quantify that. And if not, then start to break down what the different categories are and what penetration of your assortment, what percentage of your assortment are you going to start to move towards that? And then be able to, one of the questions that I see popping up is, are some of those materials certified? You don't even have to start with the certification of your entire organization. You can start with what are some certified materials that we use, and be able to have the documentation to actually prove that, and start your communication that way. That could be sort of some of the framework that you could build around that. And ladies, please chime in with anything else you want to add. Johanna and Eliza.
Yeah, I'd agree with what Rabia said. I think we're in kind of an interesting position where if you're a company and you're not saying anything about sustainability, people assume you aren't doing anything, but there is that catch-22 of how much do I say, what can I talk about? So I think, being as honest as you can with your stakeholders about what you're thinking about, what you're starting to take action on without giving information that isn't true. But I think we're really at a point where companies have to have an answer to what are you doing from a sustainability perspective? And that answer could be, we're starting in 2022, or we're getting feedback on these 5 areas. We're determining which of these areas we're going to be thinking about. But it's a difficult position to be. You can't say we don't have one. I don't think that's an option anymore.
And I would agree with both Eliza and Rabia. And there's also, especially if you're on the wholesale side of it and you're selling it to certain large clients. A lot of the large clients like Walmarts and Targets and Kohl's are requesting that information. There's starting to be the movement of having tags basically indicating, what are you doing? And if you haven't already started to move down that path or haven't assessed where you are, I think is going to become a bigger and bigger challenge moving forward.
And the luxury industry as well. Kering has their own very robust, sustainability, ESG reporting. They talk about all 3 pillars. And part of what they're layering into that is an expectation of what their customers need to start to put together in order to be able to prove that this is what they do. So it's happening across the board at every level. And again, you can't just say it. You've got to start to be able to hold yourself accountable through actual documentation and numbers.
And to add to that, because there are a lot of bigger companies that of course are focused on reducing, their carbon emissions. And the normal practice is to sort of start by focusing on the areas that you control. But now there's a greater focus on that supply base, which is actually 70% of the impact is normally coming from that supply base, which you don't usually control. You don't control, actually. And so there's more and more pressure on that supply base to do certain things and take certain actions. So this is going to become, obviously a bigger and bigger issue moving forward. I see that there's a question.
Love that question too, about small brands who are doing a good job of storytelling.
I don't know if it's necessarily a small brand, but and again, some companies have been dinged for certain things, but you've got companies like Allbirds, right? You've got companies like Reformation. They do a really good job of speaking in the language of their customer, of their client, and telling them exactly what it is. Of course, Allbirds is also sort of the gold standard because they've set it up as a total company, but there are also other companies who are starting to sort of go there, and they talk about it and say, hey, we're not there yet, but this is sort of what we're trying to do. And Johanna, who's the latest one that we just looked at? It, the name escapes me. Sorry.
I do too. I do too.
We've got, we've even had people like, big companies like Samsonite. You take some of their initiatives, when you look at their different brands, they do a really good job of explaining it, and they weren't there 100%, but they talk about what they're working towards, and that, you know, they started with some initiatives, and now they've said, okay, they're really going after it to become a completely sustainable company. So those are a few of the examples.
Outer Known is another one that does a really good job, but yeah, there are quite a few that are
Eliza,
doing a nice
anything
job.
that you know off the top of your head that you
I really like what Paravel is doing.
Oh,
They're a
Paravel as
luggage.
well. Yeah.
They are climate neutral, and they seem to speak about it in a way that's just sort of matter of fact. We're using recycled water bottles, and this is what it looks like. We're doing this, and this is what it looks like. It's certainly part of their ethos and how their brand has developed. But I think they're good at both saying, you know, we're only at 30% for this. We want to get to 80%. And it's just something that's sort of a constant message, which I think is really admirable. I think before, a lot of companies would kind of put out their annual sustainability report, talk about sustainability on Earth Day. There would be some sort of hot days that you would talk about it, and then it would kind of fall silent. But I think, especially for a smaller brand, even if you're only doing one area, if it's something that you're constantly talking about and asking for feedback on and sharing with different customers, I think that's a really good way to approach messaging.
So we're seeing a lot of new materials, and you know, some not so new materials, but materials like hemp that are being refined in a lovely way to make product with. We're seeing leathers that are skipping, you know, wet blue process, so they're biodegradable. What what advice do you have for jewelry or, you know, leather goods industry, you know, as they're looking at supply, you know, what might be unique advice for those kinds of companies?
You know, well, you know, when you, sorry, I am on, sorry. Yeah, no, when you're looking at sort of the jewelry industry, you know, when you look at the sort of, you know, product life cycle, you know, you're dealing with the same sort of issues that you deal in other industries. You know, you're dealing with the issue around sourcing. You know, you're dealing with the issues around manufacture, you know, and hazardous materials and chemicals. And you're also dealing with the same things around, you know, design and making sure that you're designing so that you're not wasting a lot of products, as well as, you know, the use and the reuse and how do you recycle. I mean, the great thing about, you know, jewelry is that there is the level of durability that you don't see in other industries. I think where you see the differences is, you know, sort of how do you execute on this? You know, how do you look at sourcing in a way so that you're not, having a lot of, you know, negative impacts on the environment. You know, how do you look at your processing so that maybe you're not, you know, using as many hazardous chemicals or water in that way? And then, you know, how are you looking at it as end of life? But when you look at the overall process and you know, of you know, whether it be jewelry, whether it be handbags, whether it be shoes, you're still looking at those same sort of touch points along the sort of product life cycle.
And what I would add, I think, to what Johanna is saying, I think as a company, your suppliers should be the first place that you sort of reach out to, your suppliers of raw materials, your suppliers where you get your product. I mean, over the last few years, having gone to the various trade shows that I've gone to over the years, whether it's Premier Vision or Textile Exchange or any of the other ones, part of what you're able to see is the dominance of sustainable sources of materials and resources out there at all these shows. There are specific, you know, sort of booths and resources that are focused just on that. So talk to your suppliers, tell them exactly what you're looking for, and let them share with you what's new, what's happening, what the benefits are. And that sort of not only can you look at what other people are doing and learn, but you should really be looking at the resources that are sort of ahead of all of this and what they're developing. Because there's so much, not only in terms of just materials, new materials, but also how they're taking materials that are synthetics and changing that to make them more beneficial and sort of use it in a more sustainable way. So really reach out to some of your suppliers and start to partner with them on what you're looking for, and they can become part of your timeline of how you incorporate more of that in your mix. But if you want more resources, reach out to us and we'll be happy to share some additional resources specifically based on whatever your category is.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have questions? So if we want to get in touch with you, how do we do that? Can we, obviously we'll share, you can reach out to the council. We're always happy to share your information, but why don't we put your contacts information into the chat so we have it. And,
Yeah.
thank you for your time. It's, the thing about sustainability is we're on a journey. It's not a
Absolutely.
destination. We're always learning, we're finding new materials, we're finding better ways to do it. So having a few lifelines to call when we get stuck or we have questions is so important and valuable. So we really just appreciate your insights and expertise.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I mean, we're excited to be able to have a chance to just talk to everybody and just share a little bit about what we know. Feel free to either email. I put my email in there, Rabia at BGood Collective. Take a look at our website. We give a little bit. You'll get more of a sense of some of the details of what we went through today. But nothing's better than just having a conversation. So just no strings attached. Just call us, reach out to us. Email us and we'll set up a call and we'll just chat through whatever some of your questions are, and happy to be able to support.
Terrific. Thank you all so very much. And I'll look
everybody.
forward to seeing our members very soon. We have a lot of great things coming up. We have a finance session scheduled, and Jessica Richards going through her must-have items for her trend report. So hopefully we'll see you in the next, everything's in the next week. So we'll
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Karen.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.